Welcome to my life as an NPC. I am Carbon Scythe and we're going to do something a bit different today. I don't know if you have caught on to that yet, but I enjoy RPG games, role-playing games. Well, RPG games, role-playing games, whatever. I like to role-play. And so I decided that I am going to show you guys how to make a character for an RPG that I want to play. Scion 2e. So Scion, first of all, is a world just very much like our own, but all myths and legends and folklore and religions and mythology and all that, it's real. So you walk down the street, you're on your way to work, but suddenly you see a centaur just walking across the street, saying hi to them. Oh, hi. And it's, well, depending on where you are in the world, it's either a normal thing that happens or it's rare, you know? It's kind of like meeting, if you have celebrities, and all of these mythical beings are the celebrities of celebrities. So that's how I would say that this world works in a way. So it is perfectly possible to be just going to a bar one night, having an awesome drink, and then the next day going on sword fighting with an ogre or something like that. But it's all taking place in this modern world. So, as I said, we're going to create a character today, and I have already a character idea in mind, so we're going to do that. Your job, however, is to figure out what character I am basing my character on. I am taking inspiration from an already existing character from some kind of media, and you need to figure out who that is, okay? So, character creation. Character creation has 6 steps: concept, path, attributes, skills, callings and knacks, and finishing touches. Nothing strange about that. But step 1, concept. The first and most basic element of your character is their concept. Think of this as a short phrase encapsulating the basic essence of the character, the sort of thing you might see in a movie synopsis or on the back cover of a novel. Maybe they're a disbarred lawyer or Loki's straight-laced daughter. If you're playing a pre-visitation Scion, so first of all, you are a Scion, a character, a person that has divine power within you, and pre-visitation is before you realize that you have these godlike powers within you. You're obviously not gonna start off as Superman. You're gonna start off like, yeah, I've never been sick, or people actually really do listen to me. It doesn't matter how far up in the command chain they are or how far down I am. I demand respect, you know. It's kind of simple things in the beginning, but throughout the game, your psionic, no, not psionic, that's a psionness, I guess, will grow even more powerful. If you're playing a pre-visitation Scion, you should also decide on your character's divine parent, even if they're not reflected in the concept itself. You'll also need to know what pantheon your character is most closely associated with for several steps in the process. See a full list of pantheons in Appendix 2. And then they go on for if you're going to play things of legend like Valkyries or Centaurs, as I mentioned earlier. You can play that stuff, but then you need other core books for this than the one I have. So let's go over here. Oh, and here they have some examples of what these concepts could be. Cardiac surgeon turned cab driver, homme fatale, prim and proper stealth hacker, cool-headed catastrophe magnet, former secret service agent, cub reporter seeking trouble. And they don't really have any place to put this, so I'm going to put it down here in notes. And our science concept is going to be punk rocker turned to magic after horrible accident. You know, it's that simple. Punk rocker turned to magic after a horrible accident. Next, each player chooses 3 deeds: short term, long term and band term. So in this case we're only going to focus on the short term and long term. Band term is when you have a full party of Scions and you all together choose what it is you want to accomplish. Like, we need to take down this bad guy, or it would be really cool if we could buy a flat together, or something like that, whatever, as long as everyone is involved in that. And that's the band deed. So we go over here to deeds, and for this character, for this Scion, we're going to write a short-term deed and a long-term deed. And our short-term deed is going to be solving a mystical problem. So when it comes to short-term deeds, these can change between sessions as you figure out that this is not working for me, or I've already completed this, I need a new short-term deed. Whatever you write as your short-term deed is something you want to accomplish during this session that we're playing at the moment. And if you don't, no big deal, you can change it in the next session depending on whether you believe it's going to happen or not. Long-term deed, however, is something that you would expect to happen in further in the future. It's kind of like how I want to beat the big bad boss, you know, in any kind of TV series. You don't beat the big bad boss in the first episode, you work towards that goal throughout the entire season. Something like that. And our long-term deed would be to relieve, how do you spell that? Relieve Astra of damnation. Now that's big. That's a big thing. And as I said, the band deeds is something that you and your entire group of Scions choose together. The second step in creating your Scion is to go through the different paths the Scion has taken throughout their life. And there's 3 different paths that you have to define in order to have a fully built character. So let's see here. Paths represent a series of decisions characters have made or experiences they've had over the course of their lives. The other ways characters define themselves. Connected to those decisions and experiences are people, co-workers, friends, followers, family and resources, lab space, heavy equipment, research and archives that each character can still access. Define 3 paths for your character: origin, role and society/pantheon. The origin path is the character's background, where and how she got started. While origin may refer to a character's upbringing, it does not have to, but rather a player should think through her character's backstory about the events that were most formative. When it comes to these paths, there are a couple of examples in the core rulebook for Scion 2e, but I haven't looked through them because since I have an already well-shaped character that I want to work with. What you have to remember is that with how you write these paths, there are certain things that will be affected by it. And for our little dude over here, as I said, we are a punk rocker. So they don't really define what kind of role these are, what paths these are. So I'm just going to write down role as well. And punk rocker in a throuple. That's how it's spelled, right? Not that it matters, but well, it kind of does matter, because as I said, punk rocker gives you access to certain things, and a throuple gives you access to certain things. Not something that's defined mechanically in the book, but it's up to you to define what these words mean and what they give you access to. So that's the thing that's cool about Scion. It's very much up to your imagination and the GM, of course. And then we come to the role path, and this is how it's being described. The role path is the character's occupation or area of expertise. The profession is not just what a character does, but part of how she defines herself. She seeks out opportunities to practice her profession and hone her skills related to it.
and it wasn't really explained by me when I was writing the notes, but one could say that horrible accident is, and with this long-term deed, could be that you want to rescue someone, or that you basically want to help someone, and well, you don't have to go out and be on a long stretch to justify it, but that's what I'm doing right now. And there, you don't have to justify it. These are the things that build your character. But I'm going to say that the role path for my dude here is a paranormal investigator. So paranormal means that if you really want to, you can get access to certain supernatural things or people. An investigator means that you have a certain access to other things and other people. So whatever you write is super important for how your character will develop throughout the game. And last but not least, the Society or Pantheon path is a connection each character has to an organization, cult, group, or one of the possible pantheons. See appendix. The affiliation may be positive or negative, but either way it must be significant to the character and how she sees herself. If the affiliation is negative, e.g. on the run from, the character should still have some friends or favors she can call on. Characters may also be able to leverage a negative affiliation with other groups in an enemy of my enemy sort of way. If you can't think of anything else, note your supernatural affiliation here, like say that you're the child of a god. That is perfectly fine. In Scion, you can be a child of a god. It's perfectly possible that you are, that Thor came to Earth 20 years ago, screwed a human, and you were born. That is possible in this game. And so this is the first piece that I have to improvise a bit, because the character that I'm basing this all on is so out of the world for this game that we have to find some kind of common ground. And in this case, and we're going to call this Worshipper of Vizier for own gain. Perfectly fine. And Vizier is the Egyptian god of death and destruction, according to Scion 2e anyway. I don't know the Egyptian pantheon, but that is how they are described in the core rulebook. And so I chose Vizier because they are the god of resurrection, which is the closest thing that we can get to undam Astra. And as I mentioned, how you define your paths is how you get to pick, how you keep on creating your character. So for each path you get to choose 3 skills up here, right here. Okay, couldn't mark that properly. Up there anyway, and that is related to your path. And the 2 paths are also able to work on the same skill. For example, if Paranormal Investigator gives you in culture for some reason, and the Worshipper of Vizier for own gain also gives you culture, that's perfectly fine, but you only get to do that for 2 paths per skill. So you can't have all 3 paths work for culture, only 2 of your paths. But let's see here. Origin, punk rocker in a throuple. So for their origin path we're going to choose 3 skills that is related to it, and I'm going to mark them right here. So first of all we have culture. This is origin, because they are a punk rocker, as I said, and they travel the world, or at least England, in order to find out, meet people, express their art, and so on and so forth. But that's not all. Since they are a punk rocker, they are also a bit, kind of druggies. So they have small knowledge of medicine. Basically, how not to overdose and things like that. But you can flavor it however you want, all with the GM's approval, of course. And we are also going to choose pilot. Now, pilot is not only with planes, but anything that you need to drive. So, since you are a punk rocker and in a throuple, you're always moving around on your feet, taking care of errands for your partners and things like that. So, pilot, yes. Silly, stupid, I don't know, who cares? That's the way I'm gonna roll it. And for the roll path, we're going with paranormal investigator, as we said. So, first of all, we're obviously going to choose firearms. And then we're also going to go with occult, because, as I said, it's paranormal investigator. And because you're an investigator, you could easily say that they have some kind of leadership role as well. And then we have the most important pantheon, perhaps. Most important path, I meant not pantheon, but it is the pantheon path. Because this one works differently. Each pantheon has 2 specific skills that's attributed to it. You have to choose those 2, and then you get to choose 1 more, whichever you want. So as said, worshipper of Wazir for own gain, and Wazir is part of the Egyptian pantheon, which are the Netjer, and the asset skills are academics and occult. So we get to choose those 2 right away. Well, would help if I could spell. Pantheon and Pantheon. And now you see here we have 2 paths on occult, which is going to be, that's going to be 1 occult character. But we also get to choose 1 additional whatever skill we want. So I'm going to go with the fact that Vizier is the king of death and resurrection. Our character, our Scion, is actually going to be trained in survival as well. So, Pantheon. Now we have chosen 3 skills for each path, and now we get to the next step, which is determining how many points each of these skills get. Now, you have to choose in order which path is most important to you. And so I choose that the roll path is the most important to me, so I'm gonna put a 3 there to show that all of the roll paths get 3 dots automatically, just like that. The worshipper of Vizier gets 2 points for each skill, and the punk rocker gets 1 point for each skill. And then we just simply put those there. So let's go with the most important pantheon first, with the most important path first, which is the roll, paranormal investigator. Each skill that I have written roll on gets 3 dots automatically. So we get firearms, boom, boom, boom. Leadership, boom, 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 bot. There we go. And occult, boom, boom, boom. Now, as you can see, all of these skills have 3 dots. Whenever a skill ends up with 3 or more dots, you get to write a little thing in that box, which is what you're specialized in. And whenever you choose something specialized within that, you get to roll 1 additional die. So, for example, we're going to have to choose a specialization for occult, because we have 3 dots in that. And we're going to choose curses for that, because that is how I will assume that this Astra character became damned in the first place. So whenever something happens and you have to roll occult, you roll 3 dices plus whatever attribute you need. But if it is something about curses, you get to roll 1 additional die. So you have 4 instead of 3. That's how specializations work. I'm going to fill in the rest later, but for now we have occult curses. And then we go back to paths here. So our secondary path is the Pantheon, worshipper of a seer, and we're going to fill in academics. We're going to fill in the occult and survival. And then we have origin, punk rocker in a throuple. That must be the best path ever, basically. That's such a stupid wording for it, but whatever. We're going to add 1 to culture, 1 to medicine, there we go, and 1 to pilot. Now we can remove all of these because they were just notes. And as I said, for each skill that we have 3 or more dots in, we get to choose a specialization as well. So in firearms, we're going to use, say, pistols. Because I am brain dead when it comes to firearms, whatever. And leadership. And with this, you can, since it's a roleplay heavy game, you can be however creative you want with this. However, it should still be relevant to the path that you chose. And I chose paranormal investigator, and so I can choose low level demons, for example. Now, of course, as I said, you have to agree with the GM in order for this to make sense. So whenever you are trying to make a low level demon do something, you get an extra die for it, an extra dice. But as you can see, we are really good in the occult business. Woohoo! That's their thing that they're good at. And then we get to attributes, and as you can see, all of these attributes already are marked with a dot here, which means that every attribute always has at least 1 dot. You're never worthless in one attribute. But attributes works a bit different, works in a particular way, I would say. So first of all of these 9 attributes, as you can see here, are divided into a 3x3 grid. So we have the arenas. Can't even mark it. Okay. Can I do like this? Yes, here. Okay, not. Yes, mental, physical, and social. And then we have different approaches. And so whenever you choose to do something, you choose what skill you want to use, obviously, and then you and the game master agrees on how you are using this skill. So the game master chooses what arena it is, if it is mental, physical, or social, and you, the player, chooses which approach your Scion is using. So for example, we are out there with our pistol locked and loaded, a small shotgun, and we are walking up to this big ass werewolf thing, and it's too close and too big for you to miss. So you just boom, shoot it. You don't even have to aim for it. In that case, you use firearms, and the GM says you need to go with a physical arena here, because you don't even have to care about anything else. Just fucking end it. However, if you are on the hunt for a werewolf and you know where it is, you can actually see it over there by the horizon, and you climb up to a tree and you take out your sniper and aim for it and shoot it. That would be, for example, firearms and mental, because that takes a lot of concentration, for example. But that's not the only way you can use a gun in this world. Well, in any world, really. What if you need someone to back the fuck off. You don't have to actually shoot anything, you just take your firearm and point it towards them and say, you will put on those shackles right now or I will blow you to smithereens. Do you understand? Now that would be firearms plus social. And that is how you choose which arena, or rather how the Game Master chooses which arena you're going to shoot in. You're going to roll your skill with. And when you're distributing your ability points for the different arenas, you have to, just like the past, choose which is your primary, secondary and tertiary arena. How your Scion prefers to act. And with this character, I would say that we are quite the mental character, that is our primary one. And then we are very social, very sexy. That is how you become a god-loving, no, not god-loving, a god-like punk rocker in a throuple. But you know, since you know magic and you are an investigator and you're a punk rocker, none of these things take a lot of physical things. So that's your least important attribute. So for mental, which is our primary, we get to put 6 points in total. And I would say for our character, cunning is without a doubt the most important one. We're going to put 3 in that right away. And then we put 2 in intellect and 1 in resolve. 6 points total. In social, where we get to put 4 points in total, we are going to go with 3 in composure and 1 in presence. We're not really that much about manipulating, we're just there being amazing and everyone sees us for who we are. And for our tertiary attribute, the physical one, we only get 2 points, and we're going to say that we are quite dexterous. That's all we get in that. And then we come to the different approaches. So when you are choosing a skill to use, the Game Master chooses which arena you are working within, and you, the Scion, choose what kind of approach you want to use. And we always have one particular way we want to go about things. Either you just head straight on for it, or you lurk in the shadows and try to be sneaky about it, or you just stand there, bide your time, and wait for it. You know, you get to choose one of these approaches, and each attribute in that approach gets 2 additional points. And I'm going to say that this character is actually a very finesse kind like character, which means they get 2 additional points in each finesse. Boink, 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 boink. But here's the thing, this one, dexterity added up to 5 exactly. Not a problem, but cunning, we only could add 1 dot before we went overboard with it. It should be 6, but we can't have 6, so instead we have to choose one other within the mental arena to add an additional 2. So we're going to choose the resolve. So whenever you are above 5 in one approach, you choose one of the other attributes in the same arena and give that the rest of the dots, which is usually 1. So if we go back to how we said earlier, we are hunting a werewolf and we need to climb up a tree to be able to shoot it. We have climbed a tree already, that's fine, we know how to do that for some reason. And we take out our rifle, and now the GM thinks about it. What arena are we going to choose? And I think about what approach am I going to use. So let's see here. I would say that approach I would take with a sniper rifle like this would be resistance. That we are basically just waiting for things to get in line. We can wait here for hours if need be. So we're going to take it cool, no rush. And the Game Master says that this is also, yeah, I agree, this is a waiting game. And you can be here for hours. We're going to go with a mental arena for this. And so we check, where does mental and resistance cross each other? That is at the resolve. So when we're up in the tree waiting for that werewolf, we take our firearms, which has 3, and since we are using a sniper rifle and not a pistol, we don't get an extra bonus die, but we are using resistance, which gives us an additional 3 dice. So our dice pool is 6d10. And let's see, I forgot to say, this is quite easy, so you're only going to need 1 die, 1 success for this to work. And I rolled a 9. Oh, only 1 9. Yeah. You wait there for hours on end and you see the werewolf. You have loaded your sniper rifle with silver bullets and shoot the poor thing, and it is dead right away. Well, how things fight and things like that, that's a completely different thing. But that is how you use skills. The next step that we're going to do is we're going to fill out our calling. Since we are a pre-visitation Scion, we only get 1 calling. However, if you choose to be a even grander Scion, like you need the core supplement rulebook hero, then you can have up to 3 callings. But we're a pre-visitation Scion, you only need 1 calling, and so this is what it says about callings. Callings are archetypes that exist within the stories of humanity, binding the gods to fated roles. Most gods and Scions exhibit 3 different callings to express their manifold natures. Pre-visitation Scions may only have 1 active at any one time, however. Choose 1 calling from the list below, or supernatural origin path. We don't have that part, so ignore that. Choose 1 calling from the list below. If your character is a pre-visitation Scion, this calling must come from their divine patron's 3 favorite callings. It also determines the source of your knack. Choose from a calling list that seems appropriate and assign it 1 dot. And as I mentioned, we are worshipper of Vizier. And we have Vizier up here, King of Death and Resurrection. And they have 3 different callings, which are Creator, Judge and Leader. And we only get to choose 1. And since we worship Vizier in order to banish, purify Astra, we're going to go with a Judge. Because if someone can judge you to be damned, you can always also judge them to be blessed. Something like that. So we're going to go with a Judge calling. So let's put in Judge. And we assign 1 for that. This is also the number of dice you get to choose whenever your calling comes into question, which is something that happens when you use a knack, which we will be at in a moment. And here we also have a small description of what a judge would imply. Lawyers, judges, hierophants, dictators, imposing rules on others and punishing transgressors. Which is kind of what we do here, but instead of just punishing, we're actually trying to relieve some punishment from a certain character. And once you have chosen your calling, you also get to choose a knack, which is a special effect that you have that you can impose either on other characters or on yourself as throughout the game in order to boost your gameplay. This is how you are a Scion, basically. And when it comes to the knacks, choose a single mortal knack appropriate to their calling from their listing starting on page 104. An origin level character may only use 1 knack at a time. And that is what we are. Origin is in bold because that is what this book is called, Scion 2E Core Rulebook Origin. And here we have the knacks, and this is what it says about the knacks. Scions are capable of great feats, from abilities that border on exceptional human capabilities to truly divine miracles. Knacks give life to a character's calling, allowing her to become a living archetype. This doesn't mean the character was born into the world of the divine. They could have been brought by fate or happenstance to their power, cursed by a spurned immortal or blessed by a grateful saint. For origin tier characters, the knack are subtle ones, abilities that set them apart from common humans, but don't cross into the realm of blatantly supernatural. Those who build their legend and rise to become heroes, however, begin to reveal the full extent of their powers. And here we have the full list of knacks in the Origin core book. There are more knacks in the other core rule books, but I don't have those, so let's go through them. Any characters of any calling can choose one of these knacks, or of greatness. Something about the previous station Scion affects the people around them. They can be radically inspirational, the perfect confidant, or horrifically scary, depending on their origins and demeanor. Choose one social skill, leadership, empathy, or persuasion, and the Scion may add enhancement 2 as a bonus to that type of role once per session, reflecting their godly heritage. So enhancement 2 means that regardless of how many dice you roll, once you have rolled them, as long as you succeed, you get to add 2 to that success. So if you roll 3 dice and you only have 1 success, that is automatically 3 successes instead, for example. So we have, that's a really good knack just straight up. But let's see what the judge has. Mortal judge knacks give you power over the truth and analysis and enhance your ability to be just. Judge knacks are driven by the concept of judgment and scrutiny. Eye for an eye. When you suffer an injury, spend momentum and inflict the same injury on the target that attacked you. Momentum is a specific pool that you keep on adding on throughout the game through many different means, and anyone in your Scion group can take one of those take 1 die from that pool and add it to their pool of dice. But in this case, you instead remove the dice from the pool and inflict the same amount of damage that was inflicted to you. You are like 100% bounce back, as well as taking damage, of course. The target must have attacked you directly. You cannot reflect attacks that targeted someone else. If the target does not have the ability to take similar injury, having your arm bitten by a giant snake for example, inflict an injury of similar severity instead, such as festering, envenomed bite mark. This also applies to critical hits inflicted. Indisputable analysis. You spend a moment observing the scene you wish to analyze, and the player makes a knack skill roll. You then apply the successes on this roll as enhancement to all rolls made to analyze and investigate the incident for the rest of the scene. These successes apply before your roll. Well, I need to read up on that to know exactly what it means, but it's basically if you succeed with one skill, then all the successes during that skill roll become enhancements, which are automatic successes in future rolls. So there were a lot of knacks, so I'm going to read them for myself, and then I'm going to tell you what I choose. And so the knack I'm going to choose for my character is On the Case. When you investigate an event or scene you are casing, while casing, gain +1 enhancement to rolls to discern motives and search for clues, which applies before you roll. Casing lasts until the end of the session. So if you see someone has died, you can look around, and if you use On the Case, it is much easier for you to figure out why this person was killed and for what reason, essentially. So we're going to put On the Case, and then we get to step 6, finishing touches. Each player character receives 5 extra skill dots, an extra attribute dot, and either 2 additional knacks or 4 points of birthrights. See Scion Hero page 201 at character creation. The story guide may award additional that we don't care about. The most important thing here is we get 5 additional skill dots and 1 extra attribute and 2 additional knacks. So let's check here. We're going to go up here to the skills. We're going to choose something that we could obviously just go with full-on athletics, for example. That would be 5 points. But now, let's see here. We're going to go with 1 at close combat. 1 in integrity. 1 in medicine. 1, not 2. Here we go. So we're up in 3. Actually, let's remove the integrity and go 2 on subterfuge. Because we are not. We may be an investigator, but we are not a very good one. People don't really like us. So that's the 5 dots we put in. And then we get to choose 1 additional point in any one attribute. And I'm actually going to go with... yeah, let's go with stamina. Not sure if this character actually is that have that much stamina, but that's what I'm going with for this case. And 2 more knacks, which I'm going to skip for now because it's a lot of them. To finish out your character, record movement dice, athletics, plus either higher of might or dexterity, and fill in the following. So first record movement dice, athletics plus might or dexterity. And we have 0 in athletics, but we have 5 in dexterity. Which means that we go to the bottom here and we write 5. Boom. And then we go down here. Defense is based on the character's resilience attributes, stamina, resolve, and composure. Just note the defensive pool that the character will roll when they take a defensive action. Generally, this is based on stamina, but determined or calm characters and collected characters may avoid attacks with equal alacrity. And our character is kind of a smart ass, so we're going to go with composure actually, which also happens to be our best attribute. So we have 4 in defense. Oi mate. Oi love. Let's not punish each other like this. We can just make love instead. And that's a really bad British accent, but that'll do. And then health. Every character has an injury condition tracker. Every character has several levels of injury at character creation: bruised, injured, maimed, and taken out. Add an additional bruised slot if your character's stamina is 3 or 4, or 2 additional bruised slots if their stamina is 5. And stamina is 2, which is 1 short from gaining any extra health bars. So we only have maimed, injured, and bruised. And yeah, I know that the character paper is not exactly the way the core rulebook is written out, but you gotta work with what you got, something like that. That finishes the mechanical aspects of your character, but now is a good time to think about the things that make your character a character, not just a bunch of dots on a sheet. What do they look like? How do they dress? Who are their family and friends? Do they have any rivals? What's their name? And as the last thing I do, as I add to this character before I reveal their name, is I'm going to describe to you what they look like. They look like Sting. Boom. And with that said, you should have figured out who this is by now. This is, of course, John Constantine from DC Comics. the warlock that started off as a punk rocker and ended up sacrificing a little girl and is now tormenting himself until he manages to get Astra away from being damned. That is how you create a Scion in Scion 2e. This part about virtue is something we completely ignore until we have the core rulebook hero as well, because that is something we add when we are a bit higher up in the pantheon basically. We don't have to care about the virtues at all as long as we are a pre-visitation Scion. I hope that this was helpful. I decided to make this video because the other videos about Scion 2e character creation out there, they feel like they are very bad at showing what they're doing, at what this game is. I'm not sure that I'm much better, but at least I'm giving it a try. I would love to play this game. I'm actually planning on becoming a story guide for this game for a couple of friends, but obviously they don't get to play John Constantine. That guy is off limits. But I hope this was interesting at the very least, and we'll see if I will. And if you want me to continue to do this, let me know down in the comments, and also down in the comments write how long it took for you to realize what character I was creating. All you have to do is write the timestamp in the numbers, like I figured it out at 5 minutes, then you write 5:00 spacebar, and that will give us the timestamp right away. But that's it for today, and so just remember everyone, just because you're not the main character doesn't mean you're not important. Goodbye everyone.